ever, making almost $900 million so far and proving the 59-year-old fighter pilot is still everybody's wingman. And Jurassic World Dominion dominating the box office this weekend, raking in close to $59 million in its second week. And Pixar's Lightyear creating a smaller than expected buzz since opening Friday. Disney is reporting about $51 million in North American ticket sales, less than the industry predicted for the animated adventure. And the next hour of CNN Newsroom starts right now.
More roller coaster golf as the US Open heads for a thrilling climax. Merciless Max Verstappen tightens his grip on the F1 driver's title, and controversial new transgender rules are announced at swimming's World Championship. Hello, welcome to CNN World Sport. I'm Alex Thomas in London. Max Verstappen celebrated his 150th Grand Prix with victory at the Canadian race, tightening his grip on the Formula One driver's title. It was another dominant performance from the reigning world champion as he started in pole position and never really looked threatened all the way through to the checkered flag. Doubly important for his team Red Bull after Sergio Perez was forced out with an engine failure. The only pressure for Verstappen coming from Ferrari's Carlos Sainz late in the race, but it wasn't enough to stop Verstappen's march to victory. Behind him, Sainz came second, and there was a rare upturn in fortunes for Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton, who managed just his second podium finish of the season, just ahead of teammate George Russell. But this was, yet again, Max's day.
They were very quick in the race, so it would have been really tough for me to close that gap to the end, even on fresher tires. But yeah, it was really exciting at the end. I mean, I was giving it everything I had. Of course, Carlos is doing the same. You know, following is tricky around here, but I could see he was pushing, charging, pushing. But of course, naturally, when you're on the DRS, it's a bit easier to charge. So yeah, the last few laps were a lot of fun.
It's quite overwhelming, honestly, to get this third place. It's been such a battle this year. With the car and as a team, but we continue to stay vigilant and focused and never giving up, and that's something I'm so proud of and inspired by my crew. So thank you to everyone that's here and back at the factory. They're a little bit too quick for us at the moment. I was giving it everything, but we're getting closer. So we just got to keep pushing, and eventually, hopefully, we'll be in the fight with these guys.
So Verstappen's 6th win of the season means his lead at the top of the driver's standings is now up to 46 points from his teammate Sergio Perez. Charles Leclerc battled up to 5th from the back row of the grid to move to within 3 points of Perez. Let's get the thoughts of CNN contributor Phil Duncan, F1 correspondent for the Press Association. Phil, great to have you back on the show. Another almost faultless display from Verstappen, who's already looking awfully hard to stop this season.
Yeah, it was another great drive from Max Verstappen, wasn't it? A champion's drive, really, a champion's weekend. He was so convincing yesterday in qualifying, putting his Red Bull on pole in those wet conditions. And then today, you know, the victory never really looked in doubt. You know, even with Carlos Sainz there towards the end, putting him under a bit of pressure, it always looked as though Verstappen would be the man who would take the checkered flag. That's 6 wins now in 9 races for Verstappen. He's 46 points ahead of his teammate Perez, 49 ahead of Leclerc. That's, you know, the equivalent of 2 race wins. He's probably the best driver in the world right now. And as you say, it's looking like it's going to be very hard to stop him winning title number 2.
His rivals will be clutching at straws, won't they, Phil? But how concerned will Red Bull actually be about that Perez engine failure?
Yeah, I think any mechanical failure is a concern for any team. But I guess it was only Perez's second mechanical failure. Verstappen hasn't had one now for a good run of races. So, you know, I think it will be a concern, obviously, but I don't think they'll be too worried about it at Red Bull, particularly as they seem to have the fastest car and they have the fastest driver in the world at the moment.
So let's look at those rivals and anyone who can try and put pressure on Verstappen at all. Do Ferrari get some consolation from the way Sainz performed, especially towards the end of that race, and the way Leclerc sort of fought his way up through the field?
Yeah, I think with Sainz, I mean, perhaps not Ferrari, I guess, but Sainz will definitely take, you know, some joy, comfort out of that victory, that second place today. It hasn't been an easy season for him, and the way that he, you know, hustled Verstappen to the flag there'll be some delight for him, and also I guess with Leclerc fighting from the back of the field. I mean, it's been a bad run of races for him, but he'll take again some joy from finishing fifth and sort of limiting the damage to Verstappen. But the fact that he's 49 points behind, and you know the ball is so clearly in Verstappen's court at the moment of Red Bull's camp, that it's looking difficult for Leclerc and Ferrari. But we head to Silverstone next, which could be a track which might suit Ferrari. And as you said, you know, the performances today with Sainz and with Leclerc coming through the field will give them some confidence that it's not over yet. I mean, obviously, there's still a long way to go in this title battle.
And we've talked so much about the porpoising this season, especially the Mercedes car. How surprised then are you to see Hamilton back on the podium and Russell just behind him?
Yeah, surprised, I guess, because, you know, Mercedes were absolutely nowhere in practice in the dry on Friday. You know, Hamilton said it was a disaster in practice. He was well down the order, something like 13th. So to see him perform so well today, also, you know, off the back of his back problems in Baku, you know, it was only 7 days ago he was struggling to get out of the car, and Toto Wolff was raising questions as to whether he'd actually be fit enough to race in Montreal. So, yeah, a very good performance from Hamilton today. It was almost, you know, him back to his best at a track he loves so well. It was 15 years to this year that he won his first race in Montreal back in 2007. So he will definitely be pleased and encouraged by his performance today. He'll also be pleased to have beaten his teammate George Russell. That puts an end to a run of Russell beating him at every race since the first race back in Bahrain in March. And that was also Hamilton's first podium since the Bahrain Grand Prix. So again, yeah, good positive news for Hamilton ahead of his home race in Silverstone in a fortnight's time. But as he alluded to at the end, they're still a long way behind Ferrari, a long way behind Red Bull. Although they're closing, they're still only the third best team, and it's going to take, you know, a bit of luck for them to be in the winner's circle. But they're improving, and they'll definitely take confidence from that.
Absolutely. Phil, considering they've gone from Baku in Azerbaijan to Canada and now a 2-week break before coming all back to the UK, you're probably best off in London. That's going to be some weary F1 teams arriving at Silverstone. Phil Duncan for now. Many thanks indeed. The leaders are heading into the back nine at Golf's US Open. We're live to Brookline shortly to tell you who's rising and who's fading.
Summer in Abu Dhabi. It's everything you want, but so much more than you'd expect. It's relaxing days at the pool in water as chilled as your drink. It's bonding with family, but upside down. And even more so, it's burning rubber on an F1 racetrack, roller coasters breaking records. It's seizing the day or owning the night. It's literally drinking 23 karat gold. It's uniquely designed to make it the summer of your dreams. Whew. Abu Dhabi has everything you need to summer like you mean it.
Mainland China tolerates no signs of dissent whatsoever.
Are you anticipating dozens of people being prosecuted? Hundreds? Thousands?
Stories of mass internment camps have been trickling out.
Do you think you'll see your husband again?
This period of mourning is taking place in a real climate of fear. The humanitarian crisis that is unfolding in front of our eyes here.
This is one of the cells? Come on in here.
We're flying over ISIS front lines. This is the only protection we have. Nerves are still very much on edge. Firefighters have been battling this blaze for weeks.
What do you say to people who question climate change?
We need to do something now.
Ivan Watson, CNN.
Hello, welcome back to World Sport on CNN. Now, unless there's a playoff, we should be less than a couple of hours away from knowing who will be the next US Open golf champion as the leaders get into their back nine at the Brookline Country Club. Scotty Scheffler certainly caught the eye from the start of this fourth round, flying out of the blocks like an Olympic sprinter, picking up 4 birdies in his opening 6 holes to shoot to the front of the pack. The world number 1 and Masters champion going from 2 under overnight to 6 under for the tournament before slipping back. Here is the latest leaderboard from a few moments ago. A bit like day 3 actually, even though the conditions are better, the situation changing second by second almost. And you can see that Will Zalatoris, who had a pretty poor start, has jumped up to 6 under par himself through 11 holes. He leads by 2 from Scheffler, who's at 4 under par. Matt Fitzpatrick has just dropped back to 4 under as well. So that leaderboard you can see there is wrong. Fitzpatrick 4 under par now. And it's Zalatoris with a 2-stroke lead. Let's join my fellow World Sport anchor, Don Riddell, live from the course. He's been there all week for us. And Don, literally the questions I scripted to you a few moments ago are almost redundant. That's how quickly the pitch is changing. But let's get through it because we'll get to Zalatoris in a second. You know, US Open course is so tough, as we talked about a lot on Saturday, that the golf can get a bit defensive. That's not how Scottie Scheffler approaches it, though.
Well, certainly not at the start of the day or the start of his round, Alex. Yeah, I mean, at one point it looked like he was just playing a completely different course to everybody else. It was extraordinary coming out of the gates, 4 birdies and 6 holes, as you say. But he's found it tougher around the turn, making a couple of bogeys more recently. But, I mean, what a player Scottie Scheffler is. What a season he is having. We shouldn't write him off just yet, just because he's had a couple of bogeys. Remember, he had a wobble yesterday and he was able to recover towards the end of his round. This guy is the world number 1. On Super Bowl Sunday, he hadn't yet won a PGA tournament. Now he is bidding to win a 5th tournament this year. That would be, if he can pull it off, 3 regular events on the PGA Tour, plus the Masters, plus this. If he can pull that off, that would be a Hall of Fame season in the span of just 4 or 5 months. It would be absolutely incredible. And here's a good stat for you, Alex. Only 3 times before has the world number 1 won the US Open. Just so happened to be the same guy, Tiger Woods, since the World Golf Rankings were introduced in the mid-'80s. So Scottie Scheffler bidding for history in more ways than one, but he's going to have to turn it around because right now he's going backwards a little bit faster than he would like.
And what about our fellow Englishman, Don? Matt Fitzpatrick won the US Amateur at the same course 9 years ago. No surprise that he had a really strong opening 9.
Yeah, he's looking fantastic as well. Yeah, 3 birdies, 3 bogeys, though, far under par for the tournament. So he's basically where he was at the start of the day. What a cool story Matt Fitzpatrick would be. We've been learning a lot about him this week because it's only in he's 27 years old, but it's only in recent times that he's been contending in majors. He was doing really well at the PGA Championship, fell off towards the end at Tulsa, Oklahoma just a few weeks ago. But the experience he has here from winning in 2013 really could make all the difference because this is a historic golf course. They don't play major tournaments here very often. This is only the 4th time the US Open has been here, but he's played here and he's won here before. And I asked him after his round last night if he thinks that could give him the edge.
I certainly think it gives me an edge over the others. Yeah, I genuinely do believe that. It's it's a real, obviously, positive moment in my career. It kind of kick-started me, and to come back here and play so well again, it kind of, just gives me growing confidence round by round.
Alex, that's the kind of question that a lot of golfers would kind of try and demur or deflect. But no, he went for it. He was like, no, absolutely. It definitely gives me the edge, or he believes it would. And he's bidding for history too. If he was to win here within the next few hours, he would become only the 2nd male player behind Jack Nicklaus to win the US Amateur and the US Open on the same golf course. And what a golf course this would be to do it on.
Don, Will Zalatoris was the joint overnight leader alongside Fitzpatrick, had 2 bogeys in his opening 3 holes, but has made an astonishing recovery.
Yeah, he's looking absolutely fantastic. And, this guy, he's only 25 from Dallas. We don't seem to notice him much on the PGA Tour, but when it comes to the majors, and he's only played in barely a handful of them, he's always in contention. I think he's had 5 top 8s in, as I say, just a few majors that he's played. He went to a playoff against Justin Thomas at the PGA Championship just last month. So you really do sense that he is due one. He's an absolutely brilliant player, and he's looked pretty confident around this very, very tricky golf course. So I think he would be just a really popular, fascinating, exciting major champion if he was to do it here this week. Of course, an American winning the US Open is always going to be a big deal. And if he's someone that looks familiar to you, then you're either a big golf fan or maybe you're a fan of golf movies. A lot of people think he looks like the caddy from Happy Gilmore, and you know, every time he contends in a major, these images and these clips always kind of go viral on social media. That certainly would be the case if he can pull it off today, but certainly doing very, very well. But Alex, they do say major tournaments don't really come alive until the back nine on Sunday. On a course such as this, so many things could still go right or go wrong for any of these guys. And it might just be, I'm going to leave you with this, Alex, Hideki Matsuyama, the former Masters champion. He's about to finish. He's on the A team. He's gone 5 under for the day, 3 under for the tournament. If he can get into the clubhouse on a score like that and make himself comfortable, you never know. That might be enough. We'll see.
Yeah, posting a score in a US Open is never a bad thing. Boy, that Zalatoris's Happy Gilmore's caddy is very, very harsh, but I know that he has laughed about it. So as you say, Morikawa coming to the end of his round. Zalatoris leading by 2 strokes, although has been in trouble on the 12th. He had 4 birdies and 6 holes from the 6th. And we're just getting started, as you say, Don. Yeah. The fun stuff's about to begin. Don Riddell at the US Open. Okay, we're about to tell you why the action at the World Swimming Championship has been overshadowed by a new transgender policy and how ice hockey's Stanley Cup is defying all pre-series predictions.
Second of the period.
Almost all carbon emissions come from industries that shape our world. But at Standard Chartered, we believe progress doesn't have to cost our planet. That's why we're helping our clients change the way they operate. By mobilizing $300 billion in green and transition finance. Accelerating the transition to a net zero world. Because where others see problems, we see potential. We're Standard Chartered, and we're here for good.
Monday. Let's lift every voice. A CNN concert event. The Roots, Khalid, Janae Aiko, Earth, Wind & Fire, Yolanda Adams, and for the first time ever, an all-black symphony orchestra takes the stage at the Hollywood Bowl, and so much more. Juneteenth, a global celebration for freedom. Live from the Hollywood Bowl, only on CNN.
Hi, we're back with action from the World Swimming Championship in Budapest, where Alex Walsh took gold in the women's 200 metres individual medley. It was the 20-year-old American's first major gold. She took silver at the same event in last year's Tokyo Olympics. Home favourite and defending champion Katinka Hosszu was down in 7th. And swimming's governing body FINA has announced arguably the strictest policy yet when it comes to restrictions around transgender athletes competing in women's events, while also announcing plans to establish a new open category so they can still be included. The new rules include a need for all swimmers to register their chromosomal sex and for that to be checked if necessary alongside anti-doping tests. And the most controversial part of the new policy is arguably a ban on any male to female transgender athletes who have experienced puberty beyond the age of 12 or beyond stage 2 on the Tanner scale of physical development, whichever is the later. 71% of 152 national swimming federations voted in favour after hearing the findings of a report from a transgender task force comprising leading medical, legal and sports figures. FINA's president says they want to look into an open category in future to balance inclusion with fairness.
It is a policy that is based on science. It is a policy that we need to introduce in order to protect the competitive fairness of our event. However, I completely understand that this is a policy which will not be supported by some of our transgender athletes.
It is my hope that young girls all around the world can continue to dream of becoming Olympic and world champions in a female category, prioritising the competitive cornerstone of fairness. However, it is also my hope that a young gender-diverse child can walk into a swimming club and feel the same level of acceptance that a 9-year-old immigrant kid from Africa did all those years ago.
Before the Stanley Cup Series got underway, all the talk was of how close it would be and what an intriguing clash of styles, with the experienced Tampa Bay Lightning going for an historic three-peat against a young, talented Colorado Avalanche team. Instead, it's been all one-way traffic, as Andy Scholes can explain.
Well, Alex, Tampa Bay was hoping to tie the Stanley Cup final at a game apiece Saturday night, but in Game 2, they got hit by an avalanche. There was just no stopping Colorado. They pounced on the Lightning and never let their foot off the gas. Valeri Nichushkin breaking the ice less than 3 minutes in, and Colorado just kept pouring it on. They scored 3 goals in the first, 2 in the second, and 2 more in the third. Avalanche win in a landslide, 7-0. It was the second biggest blowout in a Stanley Cup final in the past 100 years. Colorado's just been unstoppable in these playoffs. 14-2 record, tying the best start to a postseason in NHL history. The Avalanche now lead the Stanley Cup final 2-0.
Obviously, we had some good goals and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, we know next game is they're gonna bring their best, and it's always the next game's the hardest.
Whether it's 1-0 or 7-0 or 10-0, I mean it's a loss in the playoffs, and you got to move on, and you got to man up as a team and as a person, and you know our team is going to do that.
Yeah, the good news for Tampa is they are heading home for games 3 and 4, and they're familiar with this spot. They were down 0-2 to the New York Rangers in the Eastern Conference Finals before storming back to win 4 straight. And Alex, the Lightning, they're trying to become the first team to win 3 straight titles since 1983, but that dream is now on thin ice.
Andy Scholes with the puns from CNN Centre. Now we've got a fun quick-fire quiz with Tom Brady to show you. And why was this rugby coach breaking out the dad dancing in front of his team?
What we've seen a lot is extortion demands that are fake. So someone will get an email that says, hey, we've got access to your computer, we're going to detonate malware, we've got sensitive information unless you pay us. And a lot of times those are fake. So it's important for consumers to make sure that they keep their passwords protected, use a password manager with very secure passwords. Don't reuse passwords across different websites and organizations, which is the #1 reason that we see consumers get impacted is their passwords are compromised and they reuse them across sites. And be vigilant. If you see something that doesn't look right, you know, contact the company or go directly to the website. Don't click the link to try to get to a particular website. Go there directly and type it in your browser. And obviously endpoint security, which the business we're in, is critically important to identify and prevent those pieces of malware from executing across those systems.
On Mission Ahead, a new spin on launching spacecraft into orbit.
As a species, I think we just always look up and we say, well, that's the next frontier.
Then, could this new zero-emission boat be the Tesla of the sea? Plus, preparing for the future, are cities that float the answer?
On water, buildings don't have to be static.
Meet the entrepreneurs and inventors who are taking mobility to the next level.
Mission Ahead, Saturday on CNN, in association with Fujifilm.
We're here at the home of one of the FSB team. Was it your team that poisoned Navalny?
What do you want the world to know?
People are so exhausted. Just gonna help her carry this bag.
Scores of Taliban fighters, and just behind us, the U.S. Embassy. I'm the one who has to look them in the eye. Can I have your word? These people are depending on you. Now they're pressing in. They want desperately to tell their stories.
Hello, you're watching World Sport on CNN. I'm Alex Thomas in London. Welcome back. There's one very famous golf fan who will be just as keen to see how the rest of the final round of the US Open plays out, and that's Tom Brady. The iconic quarterback loves the sport, and when our own Coy Wire caught up with him this week, he tried to get even further inside that Brady brain.
Inside the mind, rapid fire with Tom Brady. Favorite word?
Favorite word, babe.
Least favorite word?
Honestly.
Oh, is that it?
That makes sense, right?
Yeah,
like when people are like, honestly, like what? You're not being honest.
Yeah. All right.
That's right. Hey, when people go, "Can I be honest with you?" And I'm like, "Are you not being honest?"
Being honest with me all the time. Where would you go in a time machine right now?
How far back in time, or which place?
Place.
Capri.
If you were a superhero, what would your superpower be?
Wow, there's a lot out there.
I mean, you could fly, you could teleport, you could...
Yeah, teleport for sure. Yeah, absolutely teleport.
What would be your kryptonite, the thing that makes you weak?
Oh, man. What would it be? Strawberries.
I
Strawberries.
didn't like those.
A lot of unexpected answers there, and seeing as many of us around the world are celebrating Father's Day, let's end the show with some dad dancing. And not just any dad dancing, but some pretty special victory moves from Scott Robertson, head coach of the Crusaders, just after their triumph in the Super Rugby final against the Blues. Robertson actually slipping at one stage, but still pulling off a break-dancing style spin on his back. His players absolutely loving it, how he rescued it into a bit of a caterpillar move. We loved it too. Robertson and his team clearly feeling on top of the world. Okay, before we go on this edition of CNN World Sport, let's bring you up to date what's happening at the US Open Golf. The final round at Brookline. The closing holes approaching for the leaders. It's changing hole by hole. Will Zalatoris, who hasn't even got a PGA Tour title to his name, let alone a major, leading on 5 under par from 1, from Scotty Scheffler, the world #1 and Masters champion, and Matt Fitzpatrick also trying for his first major. We'll have the result for you in later World Sports shows. Join us then. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Heard it all before? But have you heard it like this?
The ultimate disruptor looks set to shake up our world. We really can't ignore the impact that this has. What can we do that explores a fresh angle? So let's untangle the players and political forces. The truth is a lot more complex. What's really going on?
Fast-paced news, in-depth reports, and fact checks from the perspective of The Global Brief with Bianca Nobilo. Weeknights on CNN.
He's interviewed 5 U.S. presidents, authored 7 books, and has an independent voice that resonates.
What happened to when we were united against a common enemy?
He's raw, unique, and one of America's most important talk show hosts. Watch Smirconish, Saturday on CNN.
I'm Paula Hancock in Seoul. This is CNN.
Living Golf, in association with Gulf Saudi.
Sweden, renowned for its forests and lakes, its iconic pop music and long summer days. This country at the heart of Scandinavia is also steeped in golfing history and has produced some of the world's finest players.
This is where it all started for me. This is where I grew up, and we are a very proud sporting nation.
The next generation of players is now emerging and ready to make their mark on the world stage.
I want to win a major this year.
On this month's Living Golf, we'll visit Halmstad Golf Club as it hosts the region's flagship event, the Scandinavian Mixed. Plus, hear the story of the man responsible for the golf craze here, who might be the greatest athletes you've never heard of.
It was nice to see my friend Sven Tumba. He's still in good shape.
Join us on a journey to the heart of Swedish golf. With the Evian Championship, Women's British Open, and of course the 150th Open Championship at St Andrews all on the horizon, the lens of the golfing world is beginning to focus on Europe. The Scandinavian Mixed is a co-sanctioned event with the Ladies European Tour and the continent's flagship men's circuit, the DP World Tour, joining forces at Sweden's Halmstad Golf Club. Launched in 2020 to replace the Scandinavian Masters, the event is the first of its kind, hosted by the two most iconic faces in Swedish golf, Annika Sorenstam and 2023 European Ryder Cup captain Henrik Stenson.
It's 78 men, 78 women playing in the same tournament for the one trophy, same prize fund.
Mixed events have become an occasional feature on the European and Asian tours this season, following the success of the Scandinavian Mixed. And it's a format that Stenson believes provides some variety for the players.
Yeah, I had really nothing but positive comments after last year, and it was a different feeling when you walked up the range to go and warm up, and it's like, yeah, you're seeing the girls, you're seeing the boys. It's it was different. It was really a fun tournament last year, and like I said, the feedback was very, very positive.
It's not just the Scandinavian Mix that brings him home this week, however. The 46-year-old is also being honoured by his homeland as an inaugural inductee to the Swedish Golf Hall of Fame.
Of course, a great honour. This is where it all started for me. This is where I grew up, and we are a very proud sporting nation with 10 million people, and I think if you're looking at the overall, we've punched way above our weight in the world of sports over decades and generations. So I'm very proud of my achievements and to be able to represent Sweden the way I've done over the years out on the world's tours.
Stenson grew up just north of Gothenburg on Sweden's west coast and believes the secret to the country's success on the course is easy to identify.
I think it comes to the accessibility of the game. It's quite easy for anyone to start playing golf, and that was the same for me. I played other sports. No one in my family played golf. I joined my friend and his family on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon, and I immediately fell in love with the game. So I must have hit a couple of those 5-irons out of the middle. It was very accessible and easy to get started, and I think that's a big part in our success as a golf nation.
He is ranked amongst the finest players to have ever emerged from mainland Europe, and in 2016, Stenson became the first Swedish man to win a major. In one of the most exciting Sundays in Open history, he shot a phenomenal 8-under par round of 63 at Royal Troon to break a major championship scoring record and to see off the challenge of Phil Mickelson.
I think to be able to bring your best game onto one of the biggest stages on that Sunday is certainly something I'm very proud of, and I would have taken a 71 and if that was good enough to win it, but I think it's just a nice added bonus to to have played the level that Phil and I played on that Sunday and had such a great match, and to come out on top, no question, it's my finest moment on a golf course.
While Stenson still unquestionably has plenty to give on the course, it's an unfamiliar role that will keep him occupied over the next year as he becomes the second Scandinavian to captain the European Ryder Cup team.
It's a very proud moment to be announced the captain for the European team. A lot of work, it's already started. People ask me and they go like, oh really, already? It's going to be a challenge. It's always been a challenge. As you know, Europe's pretty much every Ryder Cup I can remember, if you look on paper, we've been slight underdogs. So we're looking at the young, emerging and strong players that we have on the European side, and seeing how we can integrate them into the team, and also get some of the more seasoned veterans to fire up on all cylinders and be ready for Rome.
I'm Jenny Wassenaar, Chief Sustainability Officer at Trivium Packaging. Sustainability is an imperative for any business. If you look at the footprint of your organization, you have to make sure that by 2050 latest, you're at zero emissions. This is important for the Earth, it's important for future generations, but it's also important for your employees. So I'm expecting that businesses that do not focus on sustainability, that they will not be around for a very long time. Of course, this looks a bit like a threat, but it's actually not. It's a great opportunity for companies to embrace sustainability, take sustainability in your DNA, and make a future career and success for your business out of sustainability.
Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll, and it's time to run it up, yeah you know, maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, ayy, and it's time to run it up, yeah you know, yeah, maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, yeah, on a roll, here we go.
Got it.
Yeah. On a roll, here we go, here we go.
A good workman never blames his tools. It's an old adage, but how true is it in the modern game of golf? The sport is a billion-dollar industry these days, and with so much on the line, players and club manufacturers leave nothing to chance in their pursuit of the most marginal of gains. TaylorMade are trusted by some of the finest players on the planet to manufacture and fine-tune their clubs. The likes of Tiger Woods, Rory McIlroy and Colin Morikawa are all signed up with the US golf giant. Like all of the major manufacturers, TaylorMade have tour trucks on hand at key events during the season, with some of the most knowledgeable people and best equipment on board.
There's loads of variables, and that's our job to try and find what is best for them, what is going to make them perform best. If they want to test a shaft, we've got a massive shaft rack full of these things, and you can go ahead with those. We've got different sleeves that you can alter the loft and the lie of the golf club to affect the ball flight, change the launch, change the spin. We can change the weight of the golf club. So yeah, it's an ongoing process. Some fits, but you can get really lucky and be like, that took an hour. But then you get sometimes you're working with a player, it can take a few weeks to get it absolutely perfect.
The truck serves as a mobile workshop for Sam and the team, allowing them to handle any player requests that might come their way.
So you can see we've got a cutting machine up on the top which will cut the shafts, a grinding belt, and then you've got the ferruling machine at the end which will help just finish off the build once it's completed. We have our weight stations here, which obviously allow us to change the weights. That's one thing we do on tour. When we're working with the world's best, they're trying to get 1% better. So if we find them a good driver or a good fairway metal that will actually work well for them, and we're just trying to dial in that launch and spin, we will go ahead and use these weights over here. With that being said, in these drawers you can see beneath us here, we have all of our driver and metal woods in here. Everything is component form on this tour truck. Everything is built from scratch. We quote players 25 minutes from start to finish. So when that golf club is built, it is then ready to hit on the range by the athlete. The shaft rack is another cool part of us. These shafts are all given to us by a great support from all of the different brands and manufacturers that supply us with the shafts. And it's then our job to find the best possible combination to make that driver perform or that fairway perform on tour. Then this side will just be where the orders will be placed. If you want to look at this here, we've got an order form. So basically what I will do is I'll fill out what each player will want. I'll put the event that I'm at, when it's needed by, what shaft, what head, what loft, everything. Every bit of detail will be on this form. And like I said, very quick turnaround time. Efficiency is key when you're working with these players. This machine here will allow us to check the true loft and lie of the golf club. Just because a golf club says 9 on it, once you change the setting on our FCT sleeves, which allows us to move the loft and lie of the golf club, we want to know where that club is at. So every single time we make a change, we record it, so we now know what that player's spec is. So if we do want to go and change something or test a shaft, we know exactly where that player is at all times. And then on this center console, the iron loft and lie machine and the putter loft and lie machine. Again, the same deal as what this one does for metal woods, but these just dial in the loft and lies of the golf clubs to make sure each player has a consistent gap in their golf clubs, to make sure their pitch numbers and their carry numbers basically all make sense throughout their golf bag. Then finally, the last thing over here would be our grip station, which is made for this tour truck, where the club will go in, works on a compressor unit, the club will go in, it will shut. I've got a pedal down here, which brings my fluid out, and I've got the tape.
As well as fine-tuning the clubs, the truck also acts as a pickup point for all the additional equipment a player will need during a tournament week.
Behind you over here, we have the soft goods area. Now this is where players, caddies, coaches, whoever will come on to get the soft good requirements for each player every week will pick up their stuff. Predominantly players will get 4 gloves, 3 hats and 4 dozen golf balls, or 3 dozen golf balls per week. So one thing about all of our players at TaylorMade, if you win a tournament of whatever tour you play on, we actually give the opportunity for the player to choose their own numbered golf ball, or they can put their logo on the ball. So you can see we've actually loaded up some of the soft goods for the players in here already, but down here I'd like to keep an area with everyone's player balls. As you can see, we've got Tommy Fleetwood, Rory McIlroy, Lucas Herbert. So Tommy's got a number 19 for an Everton player. He's a massive Everton fan. So 23 for Lucas Herbert, that would be for obviously Michael Jordan. And then you've got Nikolai Hogard, who plays number 44, and he is a massive Lewis Hamilton fan in the F1, so that's the reason he plays that number.
The truck is on the road 22 weeks of the year at some of the biggest tournaments in the world. It's a dream job for most golf fans, and one Sam does not take for granted.
For me, for sure, I wanted to be a player. I was trying to be Sergio on the golf course. So I tried to swing it like him, hit it like him, and then you kind of get to like 18, 19, you just think, nah, I'm just not going to be good enough. So I wanted to be on tour, and I thought, what's the best route for me? And I actually went to Wentworth, one of the tournaments out on this tour, and I just saw these reps running around and high-fiving the players, and I thought that would be so cool to do. So I'm kind of living the tour lifestyle, just not with the pressure of making money, trying to hold putts.
I would describe One World as compelling, inclusive, and original.
One World with Zain Asher, weeknights on CNN.
Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll, and it's time to run it up, yeah, you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, ayy, and it's time to run it up, yeah, you know, yeah. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, yeah. On a roll, here we go, here we go.
Got it.
Yeah. On a roll, here we go, here we go.
Welcome back to Living Golf, where this month we're in Sweden for the Scandinavian Mixed and the opening of the Swedish Golf Hall of Fame. Among the initial batch of Hall of Fame inductees are two players who helped to popularise the sport across the country. Born in Stockholm in 1931, Sven Tumba is perhaps the most gifted and influential Swedish athlete of all time. He broke into the public consciousness in the 1950s and 60s as a prodigiously talented ice hockey star.
He had a contract with Boston Bruins, then he turned them down. He was the first Swede over there to try out.
Boston's loss would be Sweden's gain. Tumba would go on to represent his country at 4 Olympic Games and 14 World Championships. He's still Sweden's all-time record goalscorer with 186 goals. He would also represent his country at football in the 1950s. As his ice hockey career began to wind down, he discovered golf and took to the game like a duck to water. Within just a few years, his handicap was incredibly low, and he was competing for the national team as well as winning some of the country's most prestigious amateur events.
Very good, very quickly. I think he got down to scratch in 2 years.
Whilst he was undoubtedly a gifted player on the course, it was off the course that Tumba's presence was really felt. His name, charisma and status in the world of sport was enough to lure some of the biggest names in golf to the country.
Arnold Palmer, 69, Jack Nicklaus, 70, all these big names. Seve, when Seve was in Sweden to play, he stayed at our house.
It was nice to see my friend Sven Tumba. He's still in good shape.
He would go on to design courses and clubs, organise tournaments, and even open Sweden's first indoor golf facility, which met an unfortunate end in a snowstorm just a few months later. Tumba once said of golf, "This is a game for the ordinary people. It's far too much fun for the directors to have it for themselves." He passed away in 2011 and is considered among the greatest multi-sport athletes of all time. But it's his role in almost single-handedly popularising the game in his homeland that is perhaps his greatest legacy.
He's done huge amounts for golf in Sweden.
I'm very proud of what he did on the game of golf. He started the ball rolling.
Whilst Tumba got the ball rolling for golf in Sweden, it's Swedish women who have put the country on the international golfing map in recent years. Modern-day stars like Annika Sorenstam and Anna Nordqvist have taken the game to a new level. And they have trailblazers like Liv Wallin to thank for paving the way. She was one of the first golf stars in Sweden and one of the finest amateur players in the world in the 1960s and 70s.
I was a competitive girl. I got a car from my father when I was 18, an old Volkswagen. And I drove and played. I drove all through Europe. I don't know how they could allow me to do that by myself. I was 18 and I played the British Amateur, the Spanish Open, and I loved it.
Like most amateurs in her day, Wallin needed a profession and trained as an English teacher.
I loved it, and it was another thing that was good with teaching. You have 3 months free in summer, so I could play golf.
Wallin's achievements in the game have earned her the recognition of being among the first inductees into Swedish golf's Hall of Fame.
When I first heard that I was going to be in here, I was a bit surprised, but most of all, I was so proud and so honored, and it's so fantastic, I think, to be in the same list as all those good players.
Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll, and it's time to run it up, yeah, you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, ayy, and it's time to run it up, yeah, you know, yeah. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, yeah. On a roll, here we go, here we go.
the likes of Annika Sorenstam and Henrik Stenson blazing a trail, the talent to have emerged from Sweden in recent decades has been immense. Maja Stark has burst onto the scene over the past 12 months, having already picked up 3 wins in her rookie campaign on the Ladies European Tour. The 22-year-old from the south of Sweden is being tipped for a very bright future in the game.
It's a good atmosphere. I feel like on the whole tour, everyone's just so friendly, and there's not any different around the Swedish team. I think it's just more fun when a Swede wins, but then you kind of want to be the Swede that wins. You always want to be the best from your country.
In Sweden, I think nobody really pursue golf before age of 16 when you choose what sports you want to do. So it's very relaxed, very like, you know, sort of parents are not very pushy.
Alex Noren is the #1 ranked Swedish man, and he believes that their laid-back attitude plays a big part in the country's success on the course.
I think a few things that I've been thinking about when I've been living in America. It's like, I think there was somebody studied this, that if you cannot play golf the whole year round, or any sport the whole year round, and you mix sports, you gain from it.
I've always wanted to be a professional athlete. What sport didn't really matter. I mean, sport is always on the TV. It's always football, and in the winter it's always skiing.
Before the Scandinavian Mixed took on its current format, the Scandinavian Masters had been a mainstay on the men's European Tour since the early 90s and has been a staple on the calendar for Swedish golfers and fans alike. Noren knows firsthand the impact that seeing professionals in the flesh can have on young golfers.
Our home course was a ladies' tour event, and it was great. Everybody came. It was very popular. You know, I was out there watching them like every day, every practice round. And it was great to see good golfers.
Having been captivated and inspired by the world's best golfers playing in Sweden when he was a child, Noren went on to win the Scandinavian Masters twice in 2011 and 2015. Victories that rank as career highlights for the Swede, but the change in format is one he welcomes.
I like that it's very competitive, you know, then I think that helps the tournament being what it should be, and I like that in tennis. You know, you have Wimbledon same week or same 2 weeks. I think this is great.
Noren was a member of Europe's successful Ryder Cup team in 2018, and the 39-year-old is keen to play himself into contention for next year's event at the Marco Simone course in Rome.
Yeah, of course. I mean, like if you play well, that takes care of itself, and that's what I'm going to try to do. It was incredible last time in Paris, and I think it's going to be good after, especially the pandemic, to get it back in Europe.
Whilst Noren has already competed for majors and Ryder Cups, Stark's journey to the top is just getting started. She announced herself on the world stage as an amateur with a superb 13th placed finish at the 2020 US Women's Open.
I was talking with my college coach and my Swedish coach about it, and I said, well, if I can place 13th in the US Open, I can turn pro. Like, I'm good enough now, and yeah, that's where I should be, and I'm just trying to make my way up to the LPGA, and I just need to have the confidence to believe that I should be there.
Once again, the Scandinavian Mixed proved to be an overwhelming success in 2022, with the Swedish crowds returning in force to cheer on a very popular winner. Like Maja Stark, Linn Grant has announced herself as a star on the Ladies European Tour this season, with some dominant